2. 1. Your mission is to secure the capture zones. Friendlies capturing Zone A.
The closed beta for Ubisoft's Call of Duty clone-alike XDefiant has just gone live, and you better believe I've already had the chance to examine the game. And guess what? I thought it was quite exciting. I'm Eurogamer's Ian Higton, and in this video you can expect to see gameplay that I captured during my hands-on, as I explain to you the 13 ways that XDefiant aims to XDefeat Call of Duty and become the king of arena shooters. But according to Ubisoft's gameplay capture rules, I'm only allowed to show you 15 minutes worth of footage, and there is a lot to cover. So let's get extrapolating that info as fast as possible.
Zone compromised.
First up, let's cover the basics. XDefiant is a purely PvP 6v6 multiplayer game that features 5 playable factions from within the world of Ubisoft, and it will 1. Be free to play on launch, 2. Will be cross-play between all platforms, and 3. As it's a free-to-play game, and all free-to-play games have to have them now, every 3 months will see the launch of a new season, with each season introducing a new faction and characters, new maps, new weapons, new events, new cosmetics, and a new battle pass. Blimey, that's a lot of content every 3 months. Considering how each faction is based on an established Ubisoft franchise, I wonder how long it'll take to see something like Rabbids or Rayman factions added to the game. I think it'll be more likely that we see something like Assassin's Creed or Templar factions being the first new ones to pop up, but if Ubisoft do actually go through with a promise of adding a new faction every new season, then I guess they'll run out of options sooner or later. I just wonder what the Rabbids Ultra ability would be. Now, I've got to say that, despite some differences, which I'll go into later, when it comes to gameplay feel and speed, XDefiant really does nail that COD-like vibe down to a T. This shouldn't really be a surprise, seeing as the studio making it has been formed by some ex-Call of Duty alumni, such as ex-Infinity Ward executive producer Mark Rubin. Honestly, if you're a fan of Call of Duty multiplayer, you should feel pretty much right at home here in terms of movement and shooting. And even though this early hands-on was my first time playing the game, it really felt like I'd played it before. It was simple to pick up and get into, and it took me no time at all to learn the basic mechanics surrounding each faction's special abilities which I'll get into soon. But first, let's take a look at some of the ways that XDefiant aims to right some of the wrongs introduced in the most recent Call of Duty multiplayer outing.
Conquer the capture zone, compay. The capture zone is changing location.
Firstly, lovers of red dots will be pleased to know that XDefiant's minimap does indeed feature red dots for enemies. These red dots show up whenever an enemy fires their weapon, so old-school COD heads will be as happy as a pig in poop to hear this news. Something I also noticed is that, at certain times, those red dots will actually become red arrows, which then show the direction that the enemy player is facing. Now, this seems to happen whenever a member of my team triggered the Sonar Goggles Ultra for the Splinter Cell Echelon faction, so if you ever see words pop up on screen saying you've been tagged by Sonar Goggles, you know that the enemy team knows exactly where you are and exactly where you're looking.
Occupy. Seek and secure. Shadow Team SOP. 3, 2, 1. Find, take, and hold the capture zone.
Next up, Do you hate skill-based matchmaking in new Call of Duty casual matches? Well, according to this tweet from Xdefiant from back in October 2022, only ranked matchmaking will be based on rank. Casual matchmaking will be based on ping rather than skill, but casual teams will be balanced out after the lobby is made based on hidden matchmaking ranking, so that each team does have a fair chance to win. You're probably not going to please everyone with a decision like this, but it does seem like a nice middle ground to me.
Capture zone changing location.
The battle will conclude momentarily.
If you're like a lot of Call of Duty fans, you'll be a bit miffed with its lobby system, whereby each lobby gets disbanded after every match. Well, in a tweet from Mark Rubin from February, he confirmed that the lobbies in Xdefiant will stay together at the end of each match, which, after playing the game myself, is something that I can confirm as being a thing that does happen. However, according to an Xdefiant blog post from around the same time, if you want, you can create your own custom playlist with multiple modes, and if you do that, then you will re-matchmake after every match. Hopefully, this gives players the best of both worlds.
You lost! At least I remain untainted by your poor performance.
Crews taking C!
The final big want from Call of Duty fans is the ability to vote for a map before each match, something that Mark also confirmed in his tweet from February. This, however, is something that I cannot confirm, as I didn't see it happening during my hands-on. That may be due to the fact that I was playing in the Welcome playlist, which is something you can only play in if you are under a certain level, to let players ease in and get acclimated to the game. Perhaps there'll be map voting in normal playlists, which I didn't try, but for me, I was pushed into a new game and a new map automatically after every match.
All right! Zone relocated!
3, 2, 1. Get to the capture zone, follow it around, really stalk that thing.
Okay, so we've got the Call of Duty community once out of the way, but what about the rest of the game? Well, let's start with the maps. There will be a generous 14 maps at launch, most of which are inspired by Ubisoft games like Far Cry 6 and The Division, and they have two set layouts depending on which game mode you're playing. Arena maps for Domination, Occupy and Hotshot modes have that classic 3-lane structure, whilst maps for Escort and Zone Control modes have a more linear feel to them. Unfortunately, during my early access time with the game, in which I played on the Welcome playlist in order to try and get the most variety of matches, I was only pushed into Domination and Occupy modes, so I wasn't able to experience any of the linear style maps. That said, all the maps that I did play on were a lot of fun, with interesting layouts and vibrant designs, including one that was set in a movie studio that came complete with a recreation of a Wild West town in its centre. Yeehaw!
Capturing!
Never hurts to reinforce your training.
And on the subject of interesting maps based on Ubisoft games, I very much enjoyed popping into the practice zone where you can try your hand at a firing range, an obstacle course, and you can even test out all the faction-specific abilities and ultras against training bots. The practice zone is absolutely rammed with Ubisoft Easter eggs for eagle-eyed fans to spot, and of course there are also loads of rabbits dotted around for you to shoot in the face too. Oh, and as a quick aside, based on shooting people in the face, when you're killed in Xdefiant, you have the opportunity to quickly send an emoji to your killer, which will then appear in the kill feed in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It's pointless really, but it's cute and I liked it.
Capturing.
Now, the other thing that really separates Xdefiant from Call of Duty is the factions, who, as I mentioned earlier, are based on characters from previous Ubisoft games. At launch, there will be 5 factions available, each with their own unique abilities and ultras, although the DedSec faction, which comes from Watch Dogs 2, will need to be earned before you can use it. I won't go into specifics on each of the factions' unique traits, but you can check out all of their abilities and those descriptions in this footage of the faction screen now, so feel free to pause and peruse at your leisure. What's important to know is that while each character you play as will always have the same ultra and passive depending on the faction you play as, you only get to have one ability from the 2 available which you can pick whenever you swap to a new faction, which is something you can choose to do whenever you start a match or whenever you get killed. So, for example, if you choose to play as the Cleaners faction, you can either choose to take an incinerator drone into battle that drops napalm in a straight line, or you can take in a firebomb instead, which is basically just a Molotov cocktail throwable. These abilities do each have a short cooldown time between use though, so make sure you implement them wisely, and don't just blindly lob them off the edge of a structure, like I did here. Oh.
Service disruption.
As you might expect, ultras are ultra-powerful, faction-specific abilities that help you lay waste to the opposition, as long as you put in the hard graft and earn them, that is. There are no cooldown timers with ultras. Instead, the more damage you do to the enemy, the faster the ultra percentage goes up, until it hits 100% and you can trigger it. Word of warning though, swapping faction mid-match will reset that ultra count to 0, so only change faction once you've triggered an ultra if you want to make sure that you don't waste all of your previous hard work. And finally, because I suspect I'm running out of time with this video, here is a quick look at some of the 24 weapons and 44 attachments that will be available to unlock during the game, along with some of the skins and items that you can earn in the rewards track of the beta. Just go nuts with that pause button if you want to check out some of the items in more detail. And that was a fairly quick look at Xdefiant, a game which I, Eurogamer's Ian Higton, quite enjoyed playing. One thing I should mention is that during my preview session there were a lot of server hiccups and players got kicked out of the game mid-match on multiple occasions. So hopefully that's all fixed now that the beta has gone live. Other than that, what do you think? Do you like what you see? Were you able to make it into the beta yourself? If so, what did you think of it? And did you get annoyed by my pronunciation of the word beta? Let us know in the comments below, like this video if you found it useful, and please do subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games. Right, now I'm done with this video, I can head right back into the Xdefiant Beta. I've got about 1 hour of being better than everybody else left before all of the newcomers learn the ropes and I start getting my ass kicked again. Goodbye.